Taiwan is standing up to the World Health Organization. China calls critics a political virus. And the people of Wuhan are happy. At least, they're not allowed to say otherwise. And more on this week's China News headlines. This is China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Taiwan is standing up to the World Health Organization. The WHO is part of the United Nations, which pretends that Taiwan is not a country. That's why the WHO also pretends Taiwan is not a country, and officially refers to it as the Taiwan province of China. The Chinese Communist Party wouldn't have it any other way. But this has meant that during the coronavirus outbreak, the WHO lets the Chinese regime represent Taiwan, which is nuts. Taiwan's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, Joanne Oh, said this week that only the democratically elected Taiwanese government can represent Taiwan's 23 million people in the international community. It's crazy that Taiwan isn't recognized. Taiwan has handled the CCP virus better than any other country, but it's generally not allowed to participate in WHO meetings. Back in December, Taiwan told the WHO about the mysterious new virus, but the WHO ignored them. WHO corruption has cost lives. And now, with a major annual meeting of the WHO coming up, the US is demanding that the WHO invite Taiwan. And the international community is also pushing for Taiwan's participation. Aside from Taiwan's diplomatic allies and the United States, officials from Canada, Australia, Germany, Japan, and Lithuania have also recently spoken out in favor of Taiwan's inclusion in the WHO. You tell them, Lithuania. The thing is, starting in 2009, Taiwan had been allowed to attend the WHO annual meeting as an observer. But that ended in 2017, after Taiwan's current president, Tsai Ing-wen, was elected and started standing up to the Chinese Communist Party. So, until the world holds the Chinese Communist Party accountable, I think Taiwan has a better chance of being recognized by the WHO than the WHO. A Chinese economist with the Zhongtai Securities brokerage firm in China estimated that the coronavirus caused China's unemployment rate to skyrocket to 20.5%. That's 3 times higher than China's official number. Now that's a serious problem, but it's been solved by firing the economist, which just adds one more person to the unemployment rate. The Chinese Communist Party has been accused of not doing enough to stop the coronavirus early on. But there's one virus the CCP is eager to eradicate: the Hong Kong protesters, which they are now calling a political virus. The Chinese Communist Party's worst fear? That fighting for freedom is contagious. But if Beijing is calling Hong Kong protesters a political virus, they're in good company.
This week, a near-daily CCTV commentary attacks Pompeo for calling out China's mishandling of the coronavirus. One saying he is turning himself to be the enemy of humankind by spreading a political virus.
Wait, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is also spreading a political virus? I think China needs to find more creative people to staff the propaganda department. They're getting repetitive. Chinese state media keep attacking Pompeo because he keeps pushing a wild conspiracy theory. His theory is there needs to be an investigation to determine whether or not the CCP virus escaped from a lab. That's crazy. Investigating to find out the truth? Only absolute nutters believe you can't trust what the CCP says, which is why China has challenged him to show any proof the virus came from a lab. To which Pompeo said, the whole point is that we need to investigate to see if there is proof. So let us go into the lab to take a look around.
Look, we still haven't gained access, the world hasn't gained access to the WIV, the Virology Institute there. We don't know precisely where this virus originated from.
China is not letting the US or any independent investigation into the lab. After all, they know exactly where the coronavirus came from. The US military. I mean Italy. I mean France. Also the US. Again, specifically New Jersey. Yes, the Global Times agrees with Mike Pompeo. A thorough investigation is needed, as long as that investigation doesn't involve the lab in Wuhan that was studying bat coronaviruses. So, how are things in Wuhan, where the coronavirus definitely didn't start? Well, no one in Wuhan is complaining because they can't. They're being silenced. The Chinese authorities are clamping down as grieving relatives, along with activists, press the ruling Communist Party for an accounting of what went wrong in Wuhan. Lawyers have been warned not to file suit against the government. The police have interrogated bereaved family members who connected with others like them online. And volunteers who tried to thwart the state's censorship apparatus by preserving reports about the outbreak have disappeared. Disappeared? I wonder where to. In unrelated news, China has just launched a new rocket into space. Yes, that was a joke. Sadly, this next story is not. European Union ambassadors to China published a joint opinion piece in state-run China Daily. It was about how EU-China ties are vital amid this global crisis. And it was published on the 45th anniversary of diplomatic ties between the EU and China. Now, imagine these European diplomats' shock and dismay when they found out that China Daily, a propaganda outlet of an authoritarian regime, censored their opinion piece. Wow, who could have seen that one coming? But what was censored from this fawning piece about how great cooperation is between China and the EU? This sentence. But the outbreak of the coronavirus in China and its subsequent spread to the rest of the world over the past 3 months has meant that our pre-existing plans have been temporarily sidetracked. China Daily refused to publish it unless they removed the idea that the coronavirus started in China before it spread to the rest of the world. Other than that, this piece lavishly praised the mutual support of China and the EU during the coronavirus, saying things like, "That is how true partners act." Even in something as flattering as this, the Chinese Communist Party refused to leave in any mention of the fact that the coronavirus started in China. So, what did the EU ambassadors do? The EU delegation to China made known its concerns in no uncertain terms, but decided to proceed with the publication with considerable reluctance. In other words, they caved, and China Daily published the censored version in English, but did not publish it in Chinese at all, which they had originally agreed to do. In summary, EU ambassadors to China wrote a nauseating op-ed in Chinese state-run media full of CCP propaganda about how the world needs to work together with China. Then, the Chinese regime bullied them into censoring the fact that the coronavirus outbreak started in China. And even after the EU caved, the Chinese regime still went back on their agreement. That's called win-win mutual cooperation. And now is the time when I answer a question from you, my loyal 50-cent army, fans of the show who support what we do on the crowdfunding website Patreon. Hodge asks, what guidelines are they saying you're violating? Now, that's a question about why YouTube demonetizes or age restricts a video. Well, let's take a look at what YouTube tells me. After I appealed a recent video being age restricted, YouTube wrote back and said, "After further review, we've determined that while your video does not violate our community guidelines, it may not be appropriate for a general audience. We have therefore age restricted your video." In other words, by their own admission, I am not violating any guidelines. They use some other unknown metric to judge whether a video is appropriate. How about them apples? So, how can I avoid something like this in the future? There is literally no way for me to know what their criteria are. If they can use something outside their official guidelines for what's appropriate content, then this is completely arbitrary. And this isn't some algorithm either. When I appeal something like this, YouTube says they get an actual human to look at the episode. So, someone over at YouTube gets to make the final call, and they don't even have to go by the official community guidelines. This is frustrating. And it's also why your direct support on Patreon is so crucial. So thank you for joining the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army, Hodge. Really, I couldn't do this without your support. And for all of you watching, if you want to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party and YouTube censorship, consider joining the 50 Cent Army too. You'll have a chance to ask me questions on the show, and there are some other cool perks as well. Check out patreon.com/China Uncensored to learn more. And be sure to subscribe and check back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday for new episodes, because YouTube isn't always sending out notifications about new episodes. Fancy that. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.